a colleague down the hall. I'm your host, Jeanene Wolfe, and today I'm diving into a topic that we, as therapists, encourage in our clients, but often struggle with ourselves, and that's vulnerability. We spend our days creating a safe space for others, helping them navigate their fears, insecurities, and pain. But when it comes to being vulnerable with our colleagues, many of us hesitate. We fear judgment, criticism, or even worse, feeling like we're failing at the very work we dedicated our lives to. But here's the truth. Vulnerability isn't a weakness. It's a necessity. And when we avoid it in our professional circles, we risk isolation, burnout, and missing out on the kind of support that makes private practice sustainable. And if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know that I'm all about making your private practice sustainable. So let's break this down. Why is vulnerability hard for therapists? What gets in the way? How do we build a network where we feel safe enough to be real? So let's talk about why vulnerability feels risky for therapists. And we're going to start with the obvious. We are trained to be the helper and not the one who needs help. From our earliest training, there's an implicit expectation that we should know better. We have the skills, the coping tools, and the insight to work through our own struggles. And I don't know about graduate schools these days, but self-preservation, caring for ourselves, and the hard work that we do was never something that was ever addressed in graduate school. So the reality is, being a therapist doesn't make us immune to self-doubt, burnout, or personal challenges. We struggle with imposter syndrome. We feel the weight of heavy client work. We wonder if we're handling ethical dilemmas the right way, and that goes for gray areas as well. And sometimes we just feel stuck. Admitting these things, even to other therapists, however, can feel like ripping off the mask and exposing parts of ourselves we're unsure will be accepted. And a lot of this is because there are so many things in our field that we struggle with that aren't discussed and aren't normalized. And some of us have had negative experiences with judgment and shaming in therapist spaces, or even dismissive colleagues who make it seem like everyone else has it figured out. So what do? Do we keep pretending we have it all together, knowing that it's not sustainable? Or do we take the risk of opening up, of finding the right people, the trusted colleagues who get it, who listen, and who won't judge? And I experienced this myself when I started my solo private practice in 2016. My imposter syndrome was through the roof. I was so lonely and isolated, and I knew that I couldn't go on that way. So let's look at finding the right people and building a safe professional network. One of the most valuable lessons in private practice is this: you cannot do this alone. Let me say that again. You cannot do this alone. Therapists who thrive in private practice aren't the ones with all the answers. They're the ones with a strong support system, a place where they can be vulnerable, ask questions, and process challenges without fear. So how do we find these colleagues? You can start small. Vulnerability isn't about spilling everything to everyone. Begin with one trusted colleague, someone whose values align with yours, who listens without judgment. Then seek out consultation spaces that encourage openness. Not all supervision or consultation groups are created equal. Not all supervision or consultation groups are created equal. Find ones where collaboration and respect are prioritized over competition or performance. Be mindful of how therapist spaces feel, whether it's in a Facebook group, which I don't recommend as a place to get this type of clinical support, a local meetup, which can be fabulous for referrals and networking, or an online forum. Check in. Does it feel safe? Are people supportive, or is there a tone of judgment or shaming? Choose spaces that reflect the kind of connection you need. Then take the first step. If we all wait for someone else to be vulnerable first, no one ever is. Be the one to say, "Hey, I've been struggling with this. Have you experienced something similar?" Remember, every therapist you admire has struggled too. No one has it all figured out. The best clinicians are the ones who keep learning, questioning, and growing. So why does this matter in the long term? Sustainability. Avoiding vulnerability doesn't protect us, it isolates us. It keeps us from seeking consultation when we need it, from processing tough cases, from getting the emotional support that prevents burnout. The reality is, private practice can be lonely and isolating if we don't actively build relationships with colleagues we trust. But when we create a safe, non-judgmental professional network, we don't just become better therapists, we make this work sustainable for the long haul. So my challenge to you is this: where in your professional life do you need more connection? more openness, more safe spaces to be real. Think about the therapist community you have right now. Is it supportive? If not, how can you start finding the right people? Because you don't have to do this work alone. And when you find the right people, you won't want to. And if you can't or don't want to do this on your own, I invite you to check out Collaboasis consultation groups where we share a culture of respect, support, and benevolence. You can find out more at collaboasis.com. That's COLLABOASIS.com. And there you can also schedule a chat with me if you have questions about your needs and how I can help you find ways to get the support that you're looking for. So for all of you hardworking therapists out there, please remember our work is hard, but it doesn't have to be lonely.